Not the acceleration. It's just simply that
acceleration is horrible. And I think it's completely unfair to a tenant in the case of like Alabama.
Okay.
So are you familiar with this, how it works in Alabama?
I'm not particularly.
So in the state of Florida, and you need to correct me if I'm wrong. In the state of Florida, the landlord has the obligation to help mitigate the losses of a tenant. So if a tenant signs a 5-year lease, if they move out after 1 year, the landlord has to show good faith that they're going to try to lease it up and help stop the losses of that tenant. Good so far?
Right.
Okay. And let's say it takes 6 months to find a replacement tenant that's acceptable, paying the exact same rate. Then that tenant was only obligated to pay 6 months, and then they can be let off.
Correct.
Okay. Alabama. And then they owe nothing after that. So they actually paid 18 months in this 5-year lease and were let scot-free. Alabama has what's called an acceleration clause. But it's a double dipper for the landlord, which I believe is completely unfair to the tenant. Same example, tenant signs a 5-year lease, leaves after 1 year. The landlord can immediately file acceleration for them to pay the remaining 4 years of that lease, the entire 4 years. Even if the landlord finds a tenant after 6 months, i.e. 18 months into the lease, that previous tenant still has to pay for the entire 48 months. And so the landlord now got double the money for 18 months on, which I think is completely unreasonable and unrealistic.
Yeah, Florida courts aren't going to do that. Even if you had an acceleration clause,
right,
and you were to go to court, what they're going to do is they're going to say, look, I don't know when you're going to re-rent this property, so I'm not going to order them to pay you 6, 7 months or a year down the road because you may rent it next month.
Right.
So that's typically, in fact, there's a recent case that just came out that said that very thing. So,
and that's why we don't file any claim against a tenant until we release it, because otherwise you literally could file a claim every month, right? Which is we don't want to do that.
Sure.
If it takes us 3 months, takes us 6 months, takes us a year, we're going to be patient until it gets released. And then we'll go to somebody like Tim and have him, go for the judgment against.
Now there is a disadvantage to that though.
Okay.
And that is sometimes time is of the essence.
Okay.
So again, if you're dealing with LLCs or personal guarantees, if you wait a year down the road, who knows what their situation may be? Who knows if the personal guarantee will even be alive? So it can be strategically a good idea. You may not want to, file the very next month. You might wait 3, 4, 6 months, even a year maybe. But again, time is of the essence. And typically time delay helps the defendant, the tenant in this situation. So something to keep in mind.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's a couple landlords that we've represented that have wanted to start pursuing it earlier, right? We haven't fully leased out, leased out the space yet.
Yeah.
And they want to pursue action, and we can get correct me where I'm wrong, we can get the judgment against and have them rule in our favor.
Correct.
And then for what has been lost up till this point.
Correct.
And then once it's been released, there's already been a judgment.
Correct.
In our favor, and it's a simple.
So you supplement the judgment. So you say, Your Honor, we got our final judgment. This is what our damages were at the time. 6 months have passed, and we have these additional damages. We finally released it. So here's our additional damages.
So that's okay. Now that's something I had no idea about. So, but kind of all threads together. So if you said, "Hey, listen, maybe 3 to 4 months later, go ahead and file, get that claim,
right,
or get that
judgment, try to get a judgment,
and then if it takes another 4 months, and then you finally release it, so then at that point, the updated judgment is a more simple process."
Yes.
That's worth today's podcast right there.